If you're an entrepreneur, that means getting real comfortable with having to change your mind, change your perspective, and change your life often. If you're not yet in the entrepreneur game and you're toying with the idea of becoming an entrepreneur, then listen up, because this is something you're going to need to get used to. And learning to raise your prices and be okay raising your prices is also part of that. In this episode, we're going to get into the very common topic and fear around raising your prices and what you can do about it. So let's get into it. Hello, kittens. Welcome to another episode of the brand new podcast by your girl, Miss K. So listen, this is a conversation that I feel I had actually already recorded this episode and I didn't resonate with the style of delivery that I was using. And I was like, I feel like I need to speak directly to the core problems that are happening with people around this issue of raising prices. And this is the basic lesson of this is it can be extrapolated to basically any and virtually every area of your life, especially if you're an entrepreneur or you're an aspiring entrepreneur, because the idea and the reality is the way we currently understand or see things according to our perspective now isn't often in alignment with the perspective of the version of us that's required to execute in the ways that our business requires to. And that means raising the prices as well. There is a version of us when we're looking at a situation in our business that we have to learn to almost detach from. We're too close inside of it to make decisions normally. This is the most part for all of us. And this is why we also need community. This is why we need a team. This is why we need other perspectives around us, because it pulls us out of our own and enlightens us. And we also need an open mind. So let's talk about why this fear around raising prices when you're in business is a really big problem. It's really hard for a lot of people. The crazy thing is I just posted about this on the Unicorn's Instagram, literally like just a few days ago. I had the idea and I was like, okay, yeah, you know what? This resonates, this jives. So I kind of threw together a caption and it was okay. It was good. I felt like it was fine. But the crazy thing is a few days later, I was in a peerpreneur entrepreneur session, which is like a virtual networking little mastermind event where there's 10 entrepreneurs together. There's this organization that facilitates these, and you have to apply, and I got approved to be in one of them. And so I was paired up with 10 other entrepreneurs. There was a residential cleaning. Actually, they were a cleaning company in general. They did everything, but primarily residential. There was a property management company in one of our tourist locations here in Alberta. There was a 3D printing guy. There was a film guy. There was a mechanical services type. There was a homemade dumpling lady who was selling in grocery stores. There was a jerk sauce company that was selling in jerk sauce that was also homemade, that was selling in Safeways and Sobeys across Canada. There was, goodness gracious, there was a lash business. There was my business. And so there was like a good eclectic group of entrepreneurs in this circle. And aside from every single person kind of had at one point agreed with this fear around raising prices. And the focus of the conversation was really evolving. It just happened to revolve around one of these companies who's had a lot of concerns that you could tell they were really struggling with staffing issues, raising their prices, paying their staff appropriately, and cleaning. This is nothing new, right? Cleaning is a very tough industry to be in. If you don't know, my background is in commercial cleaning. I was ops, for a very, very large commercial cleaning. We had 300 employees and the turnover rate was like 95%. Like, it's a very difficult industry to be in. It's also the job that I had secured my operations manager role in just before I quit to start my business that nearly broke me. I mean, the business didn't break me. This job nearly broke me. But the thing is, it's like, cleaning is a very, it can be a very lucrative industry, but it is very difficult. It's very, very difficult. So I'm very familiar with the nuances of the industry, and I understand the trials that these two are facing as a small business. And so we were able to offer a lot of advice in different areas and staffing and kind of giving them some insight onto what living wage actually was and how, different things and how they could attract a better workforce and all this kind of stuff. Then the conversation came up about raising prices. And raising prices just was you could almost tell there was two ladies part of this company, and one of the ladies would just glaze over. She couldn't hear She wasn't receiving a lot of the advice that was being given because you could just tell that there was some sort of wall up, some sort of opposition that wasn't letting her really hear a lot of the advice that was being given. And while the other one had pages full on a iPad or something of notes, like she was just absorbing everything she possibly could, which was really cool to see. But, there was a lot of, and I'm going to use this word because it is a very blunt word, but it's a very true word. There were a lot of excuses to why they couldn't raise their prices. That clients can't afford it. The economy sucks. They'll lose people, all this kind of thing. The majority of their clients are seniors. You could list so many different excuses as to why. And the thing I was recognizing as I'm looking back and thinking about this conversation and how I had originally recorded the first podcast was all very dry and systemic about like strategies and blah, blah, blah. I was like, we need to talk about the real heart of the issue here too. And she's looking at this from a limited perspective of entrepreneurship right now. And the crazy thing is in entrepreneurship, this is one of those things where you are forced to grow every single day. There will not be a day of your entrepreneurial journey where you do not have to step the fuck up in your life, in your personal life, in your mindset, in your perspective. You do have to consistently learn, especially if you are the type of person who doesn't have the capital, who's building the whole thing from the ground up. Like you're not given $1 million to go build a team. You don't have investors. You don't have people to pour in. You're not able to delegate tasks. Like you are the solopreneur of your business for the time being. You are going to have to get really comfortable with evolving quickly and often. So I find that there's almost this opposition of, or maybe it's a lack of awareness of when we're getting into entrepreneurship that we don't fully realize that this is going to be required of us. The crazy thing is, when I started my business, I knew almost innately that the version of me wasn't going to cut it in my business. I had to show up differently right off the get-go. And I didn't know what that looked like. So I just started absorbing and listening to all the YouTube motivational content from entrepreneurs and successful people and doing what they were doing. If that meant getting up at 6 a.m., putting in a little bit of exercise, meditating, clearing, I tried it all. That's when I got into meditation. Like I listened to what they were saying they were doing. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to start taking the parts that stick and leave the rest. Like you have to learn to make it your own, but you actually have to start doing things to evolve right off the jump. If not, and you start doing it later, you're playing catch up, which is so much harder. It's not impossible, but you do have to prioritize learning to see things from different perspectives. Learning to open your mind and be open-minded is incredibly important, and realize that maybe the way that you're looking at things isn't the right lens. You're looking at it through either an employee lens or a scarcity lens, a trauma lens, whatever it is. And I think as entrepreneurs especially, we do have a tendency to carry our perspective in our business through the lens of an employee, because the main reason for a lot of us that we start businesses is because we hate being employees. Like we don't want to be an employee. We innately have something inside of us that's like, I can't do this. I can't work for people. I can't have this freedom of mind stripped. I need to make more money, etc. And so, but we tend to carry up almost a certain level of our perspective through it. And so we're operating and creating and building our business from a perspective that includes a large portion of our awareness in this area. And this is where it's going to bite you in the ass. So I'm masterminding and I'm talking to him. I'm hearing all these excuses. And I'm thinking also about how we have our ideal client profiles, like we're taught to know who our clients are, know what services they need, what solutions do they need, what problems are evident that they're going to hire you for, how are you going to solve that problem for them, where do they live, how old are they, like all the basic demographics, but the buying characteristics of them, their spending habits, they're getting to know like deeply our customers is a very important part of the process of becoming an entrepreneur. Really getting an idea of who your ideal client is and having this evolve as your business evolves is incredibly important as well, especially in an area like cleaning, right? And understanding too that your price point is also your ideal client profile is also a part of the attraction strategy of your business. How you're going to attract the right clients to your business is by knowing who your right clients are, right? So when you know who your right clients are, your marketing is curated properly towards them. It speaks to their pain points. It speaks to their problems. It speaks to what they need. It speaks to their soul. It finds them. The algorithm helps you with this, but marketing is a big part of that. But it's also an attraction game because people out there align with it and are attracted to businesses whose marketing is curated towards them. I mean, look at the feeds of, the ad feeds of people on social media that are in two completely different tax brackets. You're going to see two completely different social media feeds and social media ads on their feeds. This is a reflection of that. So understanding too that your price point attracts your clients. If you're having low prices for a very, very high value, there is a certain type of client you're going to find. Yes, a lot of wealthy people are very good with money, but they also have the budgets to pay more, to pay in compensation, and they're not bargain hunters. They're not the ones looking for the cheapest cleaning company out there. They're looking for the best, cheapest cleaning company out there. And that's still going to be double your price. They might not even, a lot of wealthy people are going to be so financially secure that the price won't even be a problem. They just want their house clean. They just want this problem solved, and they will pay to get it solved. That's what it's like when these people have money, right? So you have to understand that your price point attracts certain clients. What kind of client are you attracting? What type of customer are you attracting in your business? And I want to address a few points around some of the fears, okay, about losing clients. I know fear of losing clients is like the first point that I really want to go of. But a fear of losing clients is just a fear of growth. That's what it really comes down to. Because yes, you might lose clients. You very well might lose clients, but you know what you're going to gain? The right clients, the ones who see your value. You're going to create space in your business that allows for growth to occur and allows for continued success, because we have to learn. This is another point too. Let me just round up this point before I go off on a tangent, but holding on to the wrong clients is going to block the ones who are aligned. Okay. You're going to be blocking the ones who are right for you. You're going to be blocking the ones who can afford you and are looking for your services, and not only can afford you, are going to be much better quality clients as well. That means they'll probably leave you better reviews. They'll probably give you more word of mouth referrals. They'll probably, they might be a little bit more high maintenance because they're expecting a better quality. Good. Let them help you raise the standard of your business. You should be forced to have to do better and keep growing and become better. That's part of the business game as well, especially in an industry, every industry where there's competition to some degree. You have to continue to elevate and deliver, right? And I want to kind of touch on a little bit of a point around this fear of raising prices. A lot of people will use excuses that seem really morally sound and really, that's a really good reason to not want to raise prices because the economy is really tough and you have lower income people that are paying and it's really hard. And those are all great. Those are all great, very admirable reasons to not want to raise your prices. The thing is, the reality is we are playing a capitalistic game. As entrepreneurs, you have to get comfortable with that. You have to understand that in order to succeed in business and create a business that not only creates financial freedom for yourself, security for yourself, time freedom for yourself, security for your employees, quality for your customers, because you need to be able to reinvest into better equipment, better consumables, better training, better knowledge, and pay better for your employees to get a better quality of work, you need to play the capitalistic game. This isn't something that should be shaming ourselves about. We are honestly conditioned to feel shame and guilt around these areas. We're conditioned to believe that money is evil, that rich people are evil. This is all part of a very curated narrative that we have to be very mindful of. And I want you to look at the perspective of which you're making these decisions. And how does it truly make you feel? Does it make you feel empowered in your business, or does it make you feel like you're playing small? Does it make you feel afraid? Does it make you feel insignificant, incapable, discouraged, distraught, disheartened? What are the feelings behind these ideas and these excuses that you're using to not raise your prices in your business? Because I can pretty much guarantee a lot of it is coming from a narrative where the 1% want to continue to control the 1%. Which is funny because even if you were a millionaire, you wouldn't even be a threat to these 1%. But the game is so heavily curated to keep the wealth gap alive and gapped that it is very deeply ingrained in us. And we have to learn to look at this entire picture in a more empowered and more practical, more logical way. The reality is we are forced to play the capitalistic game. We are forced to. It doesn't make you a bad person to having to raise your prices. It makes you a business owner. And it makes you a better business owner because that means you'll be able to deliver more. When you have less stress on your plate because the bills are paid, your staff is paid, and your clients are happy, you're going to give more in your business. But when you're stressed because you can't afford to pay your staff because you're too afraid to raise your prices and lose clients, your business is going to tank. You're going to eventually succumb to the pressure, and this is what happens to a lot of people. There needs to be a shift in how we're viewing the actions that we take towards our business and in our business from a more empowered perspective. And again, this comes down to surrounding yourself with more entrepreneurs, more community, talking more with people, and taking yourself out of the picture and understanding that maybe the way you're looking at it is not empowering you to make the best decisions for your business. That brings me into my second point about how we're forced to play this capitalistic game. And again, I want to reiterate that capitalism isn't evil. It's just the game that we're forced to exist in. We're forced to exist in this society. And we're not going to win this game by staying broke or undercharging. We often hear too, a lot of the reason people are afraid of charging more or becoming even successful in their business is they're afraid that money will change them. And the point is that money is an amplifier. We've heard this saying, and you've probably heard this saying as well, but money doesn't change you. It just amplifies who you already are. And here's the best part, sweetheart. If you are worried, genuinely concerned because you have elderly clients who can't afford you, or that the economy is tough, this already shows what kind of person you are. This shows that you are a kind, empathetic person who understands the struggles going on among people, which means that when you have more money, you will be able to do good and give back even more. But the longer you keep playing small and using these reasons to not charge more, you're taking away the opportunity from these people who need it most to be served. You're actually robbing them and yourself from the opportunity to give back and do more and actually take action on those things that are hurting you or causing grievances. But if you continue to actually just meet the frequency of suffering with suffering in your business by not charging more, you're not going to solve any of those problems. So it's almost like a catch-22. You have to look at a completely different perspective of it in order to empower the decisions you're going to make. You can charge more and give back. And for those of us who need some practical ideas or maybe inspiration as to how even you can incorporate giving back into your strategy, because I even mentioned this to the cleaners because their concern, which I thought was extremely admirable, was the fact that a lot of their clients are seniors who are on fixed incomes. And I mean, this can be extrapolated too to low income families, single moms. I mean, there are a lot of people who are in this bracket who could benefit from this. But I said, by charging more, you can make this passion of yours, this concern of yours about charging, fixed income seniors and a reliable service, you can make this part of your value brand, like your value driven brand story, because you can charge full price to the majority of your clients while still having an allocated, some of your workforce allocated or subsidized for seniors, for single moms. You can actually have this as part of your brand strategy, because think about it. Maybe your seniors can't afford you, but their kids can. And so their kids are going to choose your company because they know that they can afford the rates and that it's going to be giving back to their parents. It's going to actually be subsidizing the fact that their parents' house can get cleaned because their kids don't have time to clean the house. The parents can't physically do it, but like I said, the kids can afford it. So who are they going to choose? Are they going to choose the company that's giving back to their own parents or a company who's cheaper? You tell me. I'm going to tell you that the majority of people are going to choose the one giving back to their parents. And there are a lot of ways to do this. And this was even validated by the property management company that was in there. They were inspired to build in a giveaway of free nights to locals or other people as a social contribution, because they really do love the town that they live in. It's a very high, it's a tourist attraction town in Alberta, and they really want people to go and visit and increase the tourism there. And so they want to give back to the community, and they were like, you know what, we're going to start incorporating that. We're going to start doing 6 nights for free because this is what we do. We give back to our community through a portion of these. So there are ways that we can do this by charging more and still giving back directly. There are examples of this happening all the time, all over social media, with fitness trainers giving away top tier content and people still paying for their programs. I follow one of these fitness influencers. I love her free exercise videos. I've learned so much off of it. that it actually makes me want to pay for her app. Like, look at the last episode I just made with the social media manager example. I followed her for years and I paid when I was ready. And I've also used an example of my own business. I continually get message where it says, I've been following you for years and I decided to pull through, right? So a lot of these things are the long haul game as well for our businesses. And I want to talk about like the third point about really understanding where our two ideas of fear around raising our prices are coming from. Because I think this is just how I'm seeing it now. This might change, but I believe that the fear is coming from one of two places. It's coming from this unconscious awareness that we know we're not delivering high enough value results, so we don't feel justified to charging more. Like sometimes we just know innately that we're not actually doing as well as we could be for our customers and our clients. And so we know, I don't want to, we know innately. Other times we think we know that, but we're still getting amazing results, testimonials, and demand, and yet we're still playing small. So we're saying we're not good enough, yet we've got people knocking on our door because they want services, but we don't have the workforce for it. Or we don't have enough kits to keep selling because the business is so busy. Or we have a wait list, or we have whatever it is. And I always use this example with students of mine in a service-based business. Let's say if they're doing lashes or teeth whitening or hair, or whatever it is, they ask, when's the right time for me to raise prices? I said, well, one of the indicators is if you're booked. Like, are you booked so that there's a wait list? Are people waiting to book with you? Are there more people, is the demand there? And if it is, that's a huge indicator that you should have raised your prices, like at the start of all this. Right. So there's different ways to be able to measure those results. But we need to look at those two types of fear. Do we not unconsciously or subconsciously know that we could be doing better? Or are we comparing ourselves and thinking we could do better when really, in reality, we should have been raising it a long time ago? And this is a question that we have to give ourselves a little bit of a self-audit and understand. And we have to be real with ourselves. We can't look at this comparison game. We can't look at, we have to pull ourselves out a little bit, and you have to be real with yourself because deep down, are you truly delivering? Are you happy? Are you getting good reviews? And I struggled with this a lot in my business that it ended up causing so much resentment because I refused to acknowledge all the good I was doing. And I don't want that to happen to you. I had over 300 women choose my business to help start their own business in less than 3 years. That is such a huge accomplishment. I'm so proud of what I built in my business. When I created my training program, I knew that I wanted to, when I first learned how to do services for teeth whitening, it was on a simple PDF sheet, 3 bullet points, and that was it. There was no information about nothing. There was no education around the products, around the process, around anything basic that would actually make me a really great technician. It was just, here's how to put the gel. Just do this, done. I had to continually send texts to ask questions about every single little thing. There was no format. And also, I didn't really know how to build that business. When people commented certain questions, when people asked certain things, I had to continually get so much hand-holding from the owner. She ended up selling her business just a few years later. I could just imagine, because she never put the systems in place. There was no simple even course or outline, none of that. So when I started, I revamped it and I went all in. I created one of the best fucking programs ever at the time. I know that for a doubt because obviously I had 300 freaking women prove it to me. I also created a robust resource center where I physically made social media content that my students and my technicians could post on the internet so that they already had social media content for them. They had all fucking questions they could ever get asked answered. There was how to build your business, how to do social media, how to create before and afters, how to use apps, how to buy ads. There was coaching for and I continue to believe I wasn't good enough for years. I continue to allow this disgusting mindset, even though I had the physical metrics and the proof to show that it wasn't true, that I wasn't good enough and that I shouldn't be charging more. And you know what happened? It ended up biting my business in the ass. All of these things built up and compounded into an insanely bad burnout where I lost all passion for my business. And I do not want that for you. So I want you to really take a hard look at your business and understand and ask yourself, which one of these fears is it? Do you unconsciously know you could be doing better and charging more? Do you know that you still have enough resources in place for it, for you to continue to just build what you have now and increase the quality? Or are you listening to a narrative that's been instilled in you from somebody not by you, from somebody else playing small? And you'll know how it feels as well. You'll know which one makes you feel empowered to change and which one makes you feel empowered to play small and hide. That's going to be your indicator. So I want to ask you, which one is it? And then I'm going to ask you, what action are you avoiding now by staying cheap and not raising your prices? What accountability to yourself are you avoiding? What comfort zones are you nurturing by staying cheap? And remember that you have a desire to want to give back to your community, to pay your employees better, to deliver higher quality, or you wouldn't care so much about the prices. But it's a catch-22, because if you don't raise your prices, you'll never be able to pay your employees better. You'll never be able to deliver a better standard, and you'll never be able to grow your business. So I want to just start wrapping up here a little bit and give you some tools to help you reframe your mindset around this and remind you that raising your prices is an invitation to rise your business. It's not a punishment. Raising your prices is growth. It illustrates growth. It's also going to be a visible indicator to your community, to your clients, to your customers that you are growing. Customers have this unconscious thing too, where we'll be like, oh, I remember when it was $25 an hour. I remember when it was $27 an hour. I remember when it was this, that, and this. Clearly, when we know that businesses haven't raised prices, we almost have this unconscious hesitation, almost like not a rejection. What is the word? An opposition. Something kind of just makes us shy away from it a little bit because it doesn't make sense. We are innately, unconsciously used to prices going up, and we're used to prices going up and illustrating the value often going up. Sometimes it doesn't. Shrinkflation is a real thing as well, but this is another indicator. We are already conditioned as a society to be familiar with price raises and price increases, and by you not actually doing that in your business, you're actually going against the very nature of what the society is used to. And so that doesn't sit well with people, and they won't even unconsciously realize it, and you don't even unconsciously realize it. That's why it doesn't feel good to you. Affordability too isn't always about the buyer. It's about the perceived value, right? And if that value isn't there for them, if they don't see it, you also need to remember this, that not everyone is your customer. That's the point, right? Get rid of the people that are not your ideal clients. This isn't, and I'm not saying get rid as in they're awful, they're gone, bye-bye. Make space for the ones who are. Doesn't mean you don't need to appreciate. It doesn't mean you don't need to be thankful for all the ones who did support you, or, they were worried too that the cleaning company, I'm using this example a lot because it was such a big point of the conversation, but they were afraid of losing the clients that were with them for 3 years without a single increase. To be honest, if they're going to go away when you raise your prices, they were never your clients to begin with. They were just taking advantage. That is the reality of it, which is we all want to take advantage of a great deal in the beginning. This isn't it's not a bad thing. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means they're not the right customers for you at this point in your business. And finally, this mindset, this scarcity mindset, this limited perspective you have right now is only going to keep you working harder for less, and eventually you will succumb to it. It is not sustainable. So if you really are that person who cares so genuinely about your community and about all these reasons why you don't want to raise prices, raise your damn prices, because you need to be able to give back to your community. You need to be able to attract the clients who can afford those services, who are going to empower you to give back to your community. Even if you're a service-based beauty business owner and you want to continue giving prices at a X amount, by having a higher paying clientele as the majority of your business, you can still allocate 1 day a week for original clients to come in and take advantage of certain deals. There are ways that you can still make this work and grow. It is not one or the others. So just remember that your prices should reflect everything about your brand, everything about your business, your value, your impact, and your growth. You have to play this game, this capitalistic game, to win. Again, I'm going to have said this before, but do not shame yourself for wanting to get paid. I love you guys. I really hope that this episode has brought a little bit of life and taken a weight off your shoulders around this area. I remind you that you're in this to win it. This is why you started a business in the first place. This is just part of it. We have to be comfortable with expanding our mindsets, changing our minds, and being open-minded. Raise your prices, raise the standards, raise the room you walk into with your business. This is Miss K. I'm going to talk to you guys in the next episode. I love you guys. Bye.